Welcome back, everybody. Today we are joined by Emily Hatton. Emily is a business operations consultant and founder of the Female Founder Space. She helps founders scale sustainably with smart systems, strong teams, and honest behind the scenes insight, ditching chaos for clarity. She's all about practical, no fluff advice and making business feel less lonely and more doable. Hi, Emily. How are you doing today?
Good,
Greetings.
thanks.
It's
How's it
good.
going?
It is good to have us. Yeah, it's good to have you here. Real quick, where are you calling in from? We tell our listeners
So
where
I'm
you're
calling
located.
in from Malta, but not a lot of people from US side know where that is. So Malta is a
Yep.
small island just next to Italy. So it's a Mediterranean island. So yeah, that's where I'm calling in from. But I work with
Nice.
people all over the world. So a lot of UK based and a lot of US based founders. So yes, I'm very used to working internationally.
It's great. Good
Cool.
stuff.
Well, we're going to start with a little icebreaker question. Um, would you rather live your life underwater or hurling through space on a comet?
Underwater, 100% easy.
Just always be in the ocean. Would
Yeah.
you rather travel back in time to meet your ancestors or to the future to meet your descendants?
That's a good question. I'd say into the future would be very interesting uh,
Okay.
because I think it's quite exciting uh, thinking about what's to come. So yeah, so I'd say the future.
Nice.
Very good. Very
Cool.
good.
Well, let's get started. Let's get into it.
Let's jump in. So, Emily, you can give us a little bit of your background inside this answer if you want, just to kind of, if it helps round it out. But um, you've done a lot in scaling and operations specifically. So, most notably, you scaled an online course business from £20,000 rather a month to 120,000 just inside of a year. So, like, we can start with that. I'd love to know if there are like 1 to 2 really impactful operational changes that you made that helped to drive that revenue growth. So if you want to speak to that and maybe provide a little bit of context around that as we get started, that'd be great.
Yeah, so in that case specifically, so I was working with a founder who was on 20K months consistently, and she was kind of a bit stuck there, I guess, because uh, she didn't really know what to do next to scale. So when I came in, I looked at what things we needed to explore in terms of scaling, and I think for me, um, it's good to look at kind of one thing at a time and test it thoroughly. So she was doing a couple of things that weren't helping her scale. For example, she was spending quite a bit on marketing. So she was spending maybe 5 grand a month on marketing, but across multiple different platforms. So a very small amount on each. And then when I came in, I suggested, okay, so let's put like a way bigger budget on one platform and test that one properly with a big amount of spend behind it and see how that goes. And that was one of the key things that was really instrumental in her scaling, was that made a huge difference, because rather than
Hmm.
try and go wide across lots of platforms for marketing, really test one properly for a decent amount of time. So for like 3 months in this case, and we saw amazing results, then decided to invest more and more into it. I think a lot of people don't invest enough back into their businesses, so they're quite
Mm.
scared to invest in areas, that they always kind of do the minimum, and that is the biggest reason people don't scale, I think, is a lack of investment to grow to the next steps.
Makes
Probably
sense.
also a lack of knowledge too. Not knowing
Hmm.
how is probably another big factor too, and not knowing. And I think the not knowing is most likely the fear of why you wouldn't invest into it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the way to kind of manage it is to make sensible decisions. So in that case, what we did is, I said, I think a lot of people probably know that they should invest more in one for example, marketing area rather than spread really thin. However, when you're actually doing it, you tend to do the opposite, and you tend to just spread yourself in, thinking that that's
Yeah.
a good idea. So we just looked at the numbers. So we said, okay, which one has performed the best for you? Okay, let's test that one first. So so we just looked logically at which had the best chance of success out of the ones that she had going versus the least. So we did an audit on each, or we made her specialists do an audit on each, looked at those against each other, made a sensible decision and said, look, let's just test this properly. Then we'll move on to the next one if that one's not working. So it's, you don't know, but you just need to go through and test and get expert advice where you don't have it, basically.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. You sound very much like a systems person. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. But the reason I find that interesting is I am very much a systems person, but I'm an entrepreneur. And most of the entrepreneurs that I know are creatives. They're not system-oriented people. So
Yeah.
I'm in a weird like Venn diagram, and you kind of sound to me like a similar experience with somebody who looks at systems. And one thing that I have struggled with when I'm working with other entrepreneurs or doing any collaborative work is if those people are creatives, they sort of balk at systems by default, right? Like it just hurts to have that creative element hampered by like a systemized process. Now, I love systems, I thrive in them, but I don't always know how to communicate that well to other creatives. So have you run into that? If you work with a lot of founders, a lot of people who run their own businesses, are they often creatives, and are you trying to develop systems around that to help make them work more efficiently? Do they kind of recoil at that? What has that experience been like for you specifically there?
Yeah, so I guess, I would hope I'm okay at systems because I do operations. So I think I've got okay knowledge. I'm sure there's definitely people better, but I'm probably better than most.
Sure.
I normally work with founders who are creative because they lack the skill sets that I have. So that's where kind of the conversation starts, I guess, is that they tend to see that there's a problem with what they're trying to achieve. So usually it's with scaling or with trying to achieve their goals. So they understand that they have some gaps that they would like someone else to support with. And that's generally how you can get across that barrier of resistance, is that if you say you can address the problems they're having and say, look, if you did do these things, or you were more systematic with this, or you did follow a process for this would be way easier for you, or you would see these kind of results. And that's how to address the kind of concerns that creatives might have about that. I don't think, to be honest, some people just don't suit it, right? So if you're really creative, you've just got a really great skill set yourself, and that is what builds really good businesses. Like, creatives are great entrepreneurs as well because they've got really great visions, and they know how to see way further ahead than other people. So they make amazing entrepreneurs. And I think it's more important, rather than trying to box them in and make them something they're not, that you just work with them on the skills they have, and that they should work with other people ideally to help them with the areas that they find more difficult.
It's like a good marriage. You're just trying to balance out each other's deficiencies a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
So
That's
what
good.
are some practical, for some of our viewers that are entrepreneurs, and maybe they are, they have an e-commerce store or something, and they're doing maybe $5 or $10 grand a month. How could you give us some a practical kind of tool guide, that some steps that they could take right now, from based off your experience, to kind of get them set up to where they could scale or start scaling?
I think the main thing is to get really comfortable with your numbers. So to look at your key metrics on a regular basis, ideally weekly. If you're the founder, you should be looking at your key metrics. So that should be sales, marketing, any team metrics. Like if it was an e-commerce store, like, production, your key metrics for your business, list them out weekly and look at them week on week so that you can see what's going well and what's not going well and address that. I think that people don't do that regularly enough. That's really common. People just are a bit scared of the figures and a bit scared of addressing it. And you need to look at them regularly so that you can make the right decisions on what to do next. So if you can see that you have had less sales than you would like, for example, over the last 2 months, but you can also see that you haven't been doing as much marketing as you had been previously, you know what the problem is, and you can then address it by investing a bit more into marketing or doing some more marketing yourself, whatever the solution is. But you need to base it off the business metrics by watching them carefully and spending 10-15 minutes weekly just going through them, whether that's manually or automated, to make sure that you are very aware of what's going on in your business.
Is that like, I'm curious too, like revenue plateaus seem to be like a pretty common thing. If a company is growing, they'll eventually, because I can say this in my own experience, it got to a point where it's like you had growth and then you'll get at a revenue that works and then you'll just stay there for a while, like
True.
a good while. And in my experience, it's usually been because at some point the company is pretty sustainable, then maybe it's like profitable and you're just not looking for enough growth at that point until you like really start thinking about it. I'm curious, like specifically at that plateau stage, what in your experience has been the culprit there? Is it just that the founders are sort of sitting back a little bit too much and they're not in the game enough, or is it just like those metrics are just not being observed at this point continuously every day, every week, whatever it is? What specifically happens there that companies can just go for a really long time at a pretty even revenue, even if it's a good revenue, before they like it's just a leveling up thing? Like what are your takes on that?
I mean, it depends on type of company, but it's kind of back down to the metrics again and understanding why. So why are you at that plateau? Is it that your keep coming back to marketing is a big one? Obviously, like your marketing is kind of exhausted, for example, and you need to explore other options because that one, even if it's performing well and it's giving you the results that you want, if you want to continue to grow, what's got you to where you are at that plateau is not going to get you to the next part. So you can't just keep doing what you were doing up to that stage. You need to pivot a bit and think, okay, so what's going to get me to the next growth goal that I want to, which might be a bit different. So it could be different ways of getting to your audience. It could be slightly pivoting your product. It could be launching a new product, for example. If you feel like that one's kind of doing well, you might be able to go back to the same audience with a different product and therefore increase your revenue in a different way. So if you're at a plateau, you have to think differently if you still want to grow revenue.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And you like to do a lot of remote work with teams as well. Like you like to work with the companies that are doing a lot of what is that? I'm curious, is there a difference in terms of scalability for a company? Is it just automatically easier for companies that are primarily remote? Or is there I know that the culture might be a little bit different for those remote teams as opposed to more, in-person situations. But what are the, I guess, upsides, downsides of a company scaling? And like, if you were to start something tomorrow, are you going to try to build a lot of remote teams initially or do a lot more in-person stuff? Like where would you go with that?
For me, I think remote is way more cost effective and allows you to get the best talent, which doesn't depend on exactly where you are sitting right now. So you could get the best talent from anywhere in the world. It's also much more affordable because you can offsource certain things to different areas that certain skill sets to the best areas. There's kind of key areas in the world that are good at different things, so you can source different different roles and different pay grades from different areas, which makes it way more cost effective to build a company. And it depends a bit on the founder. Some people have just got a preference for being in person, and if you have got a preference for that, that's probably what will work for you, because you'll probably not want to make it work remotely. So it really depends a lot on the founder, and whether they have the right attitude to make it work. But I think you should always try and be remote first, because your cost will always be higher if it's in person, and it's just not really how things are looking now in terms of what people expect. Like, people want remote jobs. The best talent will want remote jobs. So if you really think long term, remote first is the way to go, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're probably culturally a little bit more set up for it now after the COVID era. I mean, yeah, it might have seemed a little more foreign like a decade ago, but now, like, once everybody was kind of forced into it, it's like, hey, we can handle this. Get a bit more used to it.
And maybe it is going full circle, because obviously some people do like to get people together, but I think even if you think about getting your team together, say once every 6 months, that's probably still cheaper than having a whole team based in your hometown. So, and that people love and is really culturally great to actually get people go to a cool location, have a really good offsite, rather than the benefits of working together every day. The benefits of that outweigh working together every day.
Yeah.
So we're going back to the metrics. What are some of the key, what's, like, in your opinion, I know for me, when I ran my e-commerce brand, my main metric was ROAS in terms of social ads and all of that. But I know that there's other, I mean, for marketers, everyone has the debate, is it ROAS or is it, these three other different metrics put together. So what, in your opinion, what are some of the key metrics that you look at when you are called in? You're like, okay, these are my go-tos that I'm going to look at first, and then everything else is going to kind of, let's figure out what, let's go back. What are some of those key metrics for you?
Revenue, obviously. So looking at revenue regularly, profitability, cash ratio is really important as well. So, I mean, finances you really have to be on top of as a founder. So I think that you need to be looking at those very regularly. So cash ratio, for those who don't know, is how much cash you have in the business. You could run the business for how many months with this much cash in the business. So if you've got a cash ratio of 3, then you can run the business for 3 months, even if you didn't take on any more money, because you've got that much cash. So those 3 in terms of finances, and then other key ones are whatever you choose for your marketing metrics. So whatever your key audience is. Blended, I mean, I think is, unfortunately, like, it's not easy, but it's true. Like, blended is what people need to be looking at. You can't just look at ROAS alone, and it's not that useful a metric by itself. But you would need to feed in from your relevant team members or whoever's doing that element of the work for you on what the best metric is that is showing success in that area, and you would have to agree on that together. And then a couple of other key ones are like team happiness. So you should be measuring your team happiness. If you have a team of
that's interesting.
10-ish or above, you definitely should be looking at it. So you should be sending them a quick survey every week, because obviously your team is a huge part of your business existing and running efficiently. So you should know week on week how they are roughly and whether there's any risks. So normally I have for the team how they're doing, like a pulse survey every week, and also if there's any anyone who's underperforming or a risk, as in you've heard that they're not very happy, they might be leaving, so you have them as a metric on the chart as well.
I love that, actually. That's such a great point.
Yeah, I was really perking up when you were talking about happiness, because again, going back to this like remote teams, I would just be curious like how you are staying on top of that effectively, because it's just
Yeah.
I'm a people person, so like I have a decent sense of what that looks like if the group is in person and like I'm seeing them every week or whatnot. But yeah, if a lot of your stuff is outsourced, or your team is just remote, either way, um, I'm just curious how you're measuring. Like you said, surveying, but like, are there additional things that you're kind of looking for, or ways to keep good tabs on that, particularly in the remote setting?
So, how much communication is going on? So often people use Slack or some kind of other platform, and you can see by how much people communicate. I encourage with people who have remote companies to do as much face to face as they can, and they want to. It could be mutually agreed that things aren't face to face, and that's totally fine. But I encourage that you have some, particularly with your close team, some one-on-ones at least once a week, and then you have some team meetings like once every couple of weeks, so that you can see each other. Um, People now, I mean, not everyone is really extrovert and likes to be face to face. So actually, it's nice for a range of roles that they don't have to be. And it does mean that a lot more people, especially in more like technical roles, for example, it really suits working remotely. So it does allow for different ways of working across the team. So if you want to be more face to face, you could just say, hey, can we just jump on a quick call and talk through this? If you know that person doesn't really want to do that, you can just do it via Slack or however suits. So it really does allow for working with people's different styles and managing a team more effectively. In terms of monitoring people's happiness in that way, you'd be surprised. You can see a lot more by asking direct questions, like if it seems to be anything wrong, you just deal with it as a manager directly rather than making assumptions, because you have to, because you can't see them all day, so you have to check that everything's okay. And actually that moves things on a lot faster, whereas if you saw them every day, you might kind of avoid that a bit longer.
It's true. It is interesting. You said like how some people can actually work more effectively if they're not expected to show up. And that's just, I don't think of that, because if you're a very extroverted person, you're going to want to be around. But like, yeah, if you're truly introverted and you do your best work alone, then you might not ever actually do your best work all the time if you're always around people as an expectation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
It's true.
kind of funny to think about. Emily, I'm curious, are there a set of operational changes that you have seen in the past that like, maybe if you were to graph this out in your experience, that companies you consult with are the most resistant towards? Like, are there just key and like, these are the things that they either move the slowest to change, or they give you the most pushback on when you're coming in and being like, hey, this is a glaring problem. Like, here are the obvious red flags. These could probably move first, that people just don't like to hear about.
Time tracking. People hate time tracking. Everyone hates time tracking, I think.
Okay.
And it's really important to do, to understand a lot of areas of the business. So across multiple businesses, just to understand how time is being spent. It's particularly true if you're working with a variety of clients. You have to track how much time is being spent on each client, so you know how profitable things are. And I don't think I've ever worked with a company that has implemented it well and quickly and with no resistance ever.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it's the most challenging thing to do, and to get people to see the benefit of, I think.
Yeah.
It can work, and a way to make it work is to not do it all the time, is to just say, hey, let's just do it for 2 weeks, and then you can have 3 months off, and then we do it for 2 weeks again, and then have 3 months off. So if everyone does it in those 2 weeks, we don't have to do it the rest of the time. So that at least because all actually most people are looking for, unless they're exploring a particular issue, is kind of a data set to see how things are going. So that's a way that I found that works really well to solve it and gets it done a lot faster. System changes are always tricky of any kind of system or implementing a new system. Usually, and I understand, because usually it's unnecessary, I'd say. I normally say really try to minimize what you're changing, because usually entrepreneurs in general get shiny object syndrome and just think that the new thing is better, but it's not. It's the team will still use that just as badly as they were using the existing one. So what would be better is to get everyone to use the existing tool properly and then see, was it the right tool in the first place, rather than changing to something that's got a slightly different interface, which causes like a huge upheaval for everyone to learn and transfer over to. So I think entrepreneurs love changing systems, love putting new things in place, but I'd say like really try to minimize that, because it is really annoying for teams to have to deal with, and it often doesn't get any kind of the results that you want.
That makes sense.
What is we're going to start wrapping up here, but I had one last question for you. What is a common piece of outdated business advice that you hear often that you would wish that would just go away? Like, you're tired of it. Either like remote first or female-led businesses. What's common?
I think, I don't know whether it's advice, but I think people really have the belief that they should be able to do everything and get very frustrated when they can. So I don't know if it's like advice, but it's something that I come across a lot working with people, and I think
that's true. Entrepreneurship, that is kind of like that is the kind of idea culture-wise, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So
it's true.
And it's what really holds people back for the longest, because the quicker that you kind of outsource the thing, the quicker you understand what you're not so good at. So for me, I'm not good at marketing, even though I've spoken about it a lot. I'm not good at marketing myself. I'm rubbish at creative stuff. So when I look to outsource, I just outsource that first. I'm bad at it. I don't enjoy it. It takes me too long, and it still comes out rubbish. So I'll just give that to someone else to do.
Yep.
And everyone needs to understand that is the case. Like, even if you're a very capable person, there are some things you're really good at and some things you're not so good at. So the quicker you get those off your plate, and with someone else who can do 10 times a better job, 10 times faster than you, the faster your business will move on. So I think if people understand their skills and weaknesses and start outsourcing, that is what I wish I could change the fastest, I think.
That's good. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Well, Emily, we'll wrap up with this. This is a complete this sentence. A thriving business is always built on a foundation of blank. There's a lot on the line here. Like, this is how everybody's going to know.
Innovation, I'd say.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to have in the show notes here ways for people to connect with you via LinkedIn, Instagram, and your site. What is it? Is there like a preferred outreach method for people who are just hearing?
What is your site for the people that are listening on audio only?
So I am very active on LinkedIn, so I'd say that's the nicest place. So my name's Emily Hatton. I'm quite easy to find. I'm very active on there. So if you look on there, everything's on my profile. That's the best place to go.
Cool. Great. Well, we will share that here. Thanks again for joining us today, Emily. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week there in the Republic of Malta. And we look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers.